Welcome to the Champions of Active Women podcast. In this podcast, we will interview women who have been successful within athletics and beyond. We hope that the amazing women in these interviews encourage and inspire girls and women to be active for a lifetime, to reach their goals, and to break new barriers in sport and life. This podcast is brought to you by the Active Women's Health Initiative in the Sports Medicine Research Institute at the University of Kentucky. The mission of the Active Women's Health Initiative is to optimize health and promote physical activity and wellness for girls and women across the lifespan. We hope you enjoy our conversations and join us in understanding women's health today to ensure women's health tomorrow. Hi, I'm Dee Degonsky, your host of the Champions of Active Women podcast. Today I'm joined by Bettie Lou Evans. Bettie Lou has had a long and decorated career in golf. She coached the University of Kentucky women's golf team for over 2 decades and developed the program into a consistent competitor in the Southeastern Conference, Mid-Atlantic East region, and the NCAA tournament. Because of her coaching success, she was inducted into the Pioneer Hall of Fame of her alma mater, Transylvania University, the Kentucky Golf Hall of Fame, and the National Golf Coaches Association Hall of Fame. She's an advisory board member and supporter of the Active Women's Health Initiative at the University of Kentucky. I'm delighted to have the chance to speak with you today, Bettie Lou. Welcome.
Thank you.
So if you could just start today by telling us a little bit about your early physical activity and or sport experiences.
I came from a small town. It's Mount Sterling, Kentucky. It's very small, 35 miles from Lexington. And so as a young person, I just played outdoors a lot. I had a pony and rode horses and ponies and played with the neighborhood children. And, at that point, there weren't that many activities in a small town, particularly for girls to be in other than just on their own.
Okay. So when did your first competitive sport experiences come?
When I went to college at Transylvania and came back to Mount Sterling and taught school. And so they asked me if I could start a women's basketball team. Which I did. Yeah. I'd played basketball at Transylvania. It wasn't a big time thing like UK, but it was a little more than intramural. Okay. And then they had just had a golf course had just been built in Mount Sterling, Kentucky. Okay. And so I thought, well, that looks like a good thing to do. So I went out and started playing golf. Okay. So then the principal came and said, well, could you start a golf team? And that was all high school experience, and that's what I did.
Okay. So how did you, especially with golf, how did you learn to play? Did you have other people around you who were teaching you, or did you pick it up on your own?
No, my father was a golfer. Okay. And so that's, as little girls like to be with their father, I would go out with him. And then when I became more serious about it, I took golf lessons from the local pro. Okay.
And how else did your parents support your activity as a young person, either structured or not structured?
Structured, we had a basketball goal out off the garage, on the garage. And so I loved doing that just because it was a fun thing to do. And they were always very supportive. My dad was an outdoors person. My mother was not.
Okay.
But I would go with him. He had a boat, and we'd go for boating and horseback riding and basketball and just all sorts of outdoor activities.
Okay. So how have your activities transitioned across your life? So after you transitioned out of competitive sport, what did your activity look like?
Well, what happened was that when I was playing golf in the summer, and I was playing with a lot of the young ladies who are on the University of Kentucky golf team.
Okay.
And they said they really didn't have a coach. They had a man who was an intern that just kind of helped them, set up things. And they said, would you like to do that? And I said, well, I don't know. You better get him fired first. I don't know what exactly to do. And very shortly after that, Cliff Hagan was the athletic director at the time, and he called and said he'd like to I could have an interview. So I went, and I don't know that there were a lot of other people interested in the job because it was a part-time job that paid $7,000 a year.
Yeah, I've heard that story before in these interviews from other women and similar experiences.
Exactly. So I said, why not? Yeah. And even though I was a little bit away, I still came over and started doing it, loved it, finally got a team that finished 5th in the nation, and they gave me a promotion, so I got a full-time job now.
All right.
I got paid a little more, not a lot, but I love doing it, and I continued to do it for 21 years.
Yeah. That's a long career in any field, but especially in coaching with a single team.
Yeah.
What were your favorite parts of that experience?
Probably my association with the players. And basically what I was, not a golf professional particularly, but I was an organizer. And, I set up the tournaments, and I set up the practices, and I picked out the uniforms, and I did all the transportation. And I enjoyed that part, the organizational part, and also, as I say, the association with the golf team, girls, women at the time. And then I got to meet so many people throughout the United States. I mean, my most favorite coach or my mentor was from North Carolina, University of North Carolina, and one from Texas, one from Southern California. So I get to be involved nationally with so many people and coaches, and love the sport.
Yeah, so it gave you a perspective on other people across the nation that maybe you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yes.
Now, when you were growing up, did you ever think about becoming a coach, or was that something that just happened?
No. I thought about, physical activity, sports, but never thought about being a coach, but I'm happy I got the chance.
Yeah. How did being active and being connected to sports, how did that impact your education?
I don't know that it really had a lot to do with the education part, frankly. It was kind of separate. I went to college to get an education, not to play sports.
Yeah.
But I did on the side.
Okay.
So,
what did you major in?
I majored in English, and I taught English and speech, believe it or not.
All right.
in this small school.
Very cool. So in what ways can you think about how sports or being active maybe impacted your career?
Well, probably just not sitting around the house. I'm afraid back in our day, women didn't have the opportunities that they have now. And so many, were nice housewives and mothers, but they really didn't have the activities that Title IX helped a lot with the women's sports. And once we started being able to play competitively in sports, I think that really helped.
Yeah. It certainly transformed the world of
Yes.
college athletics for women
Yes.
and all athletics. So when you were playing and when you were active, did you ever sustain an injury?
Not really. Maybe like a sprained ankle one time, and I think I broke a finger playing basketball or something and had a cast on it. But nothing that was, went on and on. It always was something you got over with pretty quick.
Pretty quickly, so there wasn't any long recovery period or rehabilitation that you ever had to go through?
No, not at all.
Did you witness any athletes going through that injury process, and if so, what was that?
Yes. I think the problem with golf is our body really isn't set up to turn the way you need to turn. And many of the people, men and women, have back injuries. And so basically what I did was try to get people to be, or the team members and anybody else, to be active in working out and making your back stronger so you didn't get the injuries.
Yeah, so preventative.
We had a few shoulders and arms, but golf was not a big place where, like basketball, that they got injured.
Yeah. Were there any athletes who you saw go through that process that struggled in the rehabilitation process or struggled to be active after they
a little bit because back then, we're talking about a long time ago, and they didn't have as many strength coaches, physical therapists, and the ones that they had were few, so they were a little bit more difficult to get to work with.
So the personnel and the support staff were not nearly what
they are today. One of the biggest things I wanted, and I remember raising my hand in the coaches meeting and saying, we need a sports psychologist. And the AD at that time was C.M. Newton, who said, that's your job. So now we use sports psychologists much more than we did then.
Certainly a different perspective on that these days, thankfully.
Yes.
So when you those were kind of earlier life experiences. And today, as we were walking in, you were talking a little bit about being active. Could you talk about how your experience in sports have kind of transitioned into lifelong physical activity?
I just think, and one question I think you had earlier was what do you say to the younger girls and whatever? Mm-hmm. And my thing is stay active as long as possible. Don't give up on working out, playing sports, being outside. What scares me a little bit is about the young people now are on their cell phones playing games more than they are outside playing kick the can and, those games that you played outside. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I would say to the girls is make sure that you don't stop being active, playing sports, play whatever you want. The reason I like tennis and golf, you can play it longer, particularly golf.
Yeah.
I mean, basketball, volleyball, softball, they're all wonderful sports, but you're probably not going to be playing them when you're 75.
Yeah.
And golf, I play with a lady that's 93.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, I mean, she still plays and hits the ball and, stays active. So that's the main thing is to make sure that you stay active.
Yeah.
In whatever you want to do.
How often do you get to play golf now?
I play 3 days a week usually.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And always with others or sometimes by yourself?
Mostly with others.
Yeah.
It's a very social game.
It is.
Yeah. As well as competition.
What other kind of activities do you enjoy?
I enjoy reading. I enjoy theater. I was involved at home and in college and being on, we started a little theater in our town, and I really enjoy that. And now I don't do it, but I like going to movies, theater, books, all of that type thing.
Great. Any other favorite physical activities besides golf? Physical activities or exercises?
Physical activities besides golf? I'm afraid I'm pretty much more into golf than anything else.
No, you don't have to be afraid. That's what you. It's been your lifetime, right?
It's very active. I mean, you go out and you play for 4 hours. It's not like you just do it for 15 minutes. So it kind of takes up the day.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. If you think about your life and imagine it without sports and without physical activity, how do you think your life would have been different?
Would have probably have been sedentary. Is that a word?
Mm-hmm. It is. Sitting too much.
I would maybe be sitting in a chair reading a book, which I like to do, but more than I should. I'm afraid I might have stayed in the house more and you can become active in committees and that type thing, and I don't mind doing that. I like being active educationally or where you're being, like I was in the library board, I was on the theater group, I was on those types of things. I like doing that also. Yeah. Because you can't, particularly if you're in Kentucky in the winter, you don't play a lot of golf. Mm-hmm. So you have to, and you go and you play bridge, play Scrabble, play those kinds of games, just to keep your mind active.
So it sounds like part of physical activity for you is getting out and engaging in the community, engaging with other people, and that's a big part of your physical activity too. Yes. Cool. So any other thoughts you have for girls and women who are trying to be more active?
Well, I think they have so many more opportunities than we had. Mm-hmm. There are so many ways that they can do that. And once I tell the girls that play on our golf team, once you graduate, you're probably not going, well, it would be nice if they all became professional golfers, but a very, very minor,
small percentage.
Yes, it doesn't happen as much as you think you'd like to. So, but I said you can also go into teaching golf, teaching period, but you can also be a sales rep and travel. And for instance, the University of Kentucky uses Nike. Mm-hmm. And one of the girls on our golf team did an internship. She now is a sales rep in the whole Chicago area for golf equipment from Nike. And so, there are lots of areas where just stay active.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's physically or if it's in committees or if it's working. Just keep occupied. Keep yourself occupied.
Yeah. Have you watched any of those young women transition out of golf and really not be as physically active as they were when they were training?
Yes, because sometimes if they become, I have several that have become investment counselors, bankers, and that's a good deal because then they have a golf tournament and the president of the bank always sends the girl who's the golfer to play.
Yeah.
So and then that helps raise money for for them. There are plenty of other activities that you can become involved in. If you can volunteer. If you don't need volunteer at the hospital, volunteer in so many areas there are where you can volunteer and be active and be helpful.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about exercise, physical activity, or being healthy over the course of your lifespan?
I just think that it's important that you go ahead and stay active, whatever it is. I think working out's good. I mean, if I weren't working out, I'd probably be fatter, lazier, and I think that's just very important. Working out it doesn't always have to be the same way. There are lots of different ways, but just mainly we have runners, we have walkers, we have bicyclers. There are lots of ways that you can keep your body active. Yeah. And I think body and mind staying active is the most important.
Well, I think that's great advice, and unless you have any other tips or comments, we'll end the interview there.
No, I think just that's the main thing is don't let life pass you by not getting all the opportunities that are available to you and for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Bettie Lou.
Thank you for asking.